Call the organizational meeting for Westonka School Board to order. Would everybody please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chair moves for approval of the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now we move into nominations for officers. I'll lead this, and then people can nominate people as they want to go. And the first one will be school board chair. The chair calls for nominations of school board chair.
I'll nominate.
I'll second it.
Are there any other nominations for school board chair? None. I say thank you to everybody. Chair moves for nominations of school board vice chair.
I nominate Heidi Marty.
I'll second it.
Any other nominations for vice chair? Congratulations, Heidi. Chair calls for nominations of school board clerk.
I'll nominate Lauren Davis.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations for school board clerk? Congratulations, Lauren. Chair moves for nominations for school board treasurer.
I'll nominate Ralph Harrison.
I'll second that. Any other nominations? None said. Congratulations, Ralph. Chair moves for approval of the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair moves for approval of, moves for the adjournment of the organizational meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Do we,
All right.
do we need to do the, is there a consent agenda?
You did that already.
We did that, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Was there anything you wanted to discuss on there?
No, I was reading it and going, okay, and I missed it, I'm sorry.
Then I call the January regular meeting for the Westonka School Board to order. Chair moves for approval of the tonight's agenda. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Announcements. School board work session tomorrow, 2 p.m. right here.
Kevin, is that 2 to 4?
2 to
2 to 4, yes. And then January 15th, Facilities Committee meeting right here at 7 a.m. Teaching and Learning meeting January 24th at 7:30 in Conference Room A. Finance Committee meeting February 6th, 7:30 a.m. Policy Committee meeting February 10th at 5:30 p.m. in the ESC Conference Room A. And regular board meeting to follow at 6 p.m. right in here. At this time, are there any members of the public that would like to come before the board and speak?
Gary and Kevin, just a quick question. The meeting tomorrow, that's open to the public, correct?
Yes.
Yes. All right. No one here, Deb. Then we'll move on to the student rep report. Mason. Did you have a good break?
Yeah, it was long, but it felt short, so I don't know, kind of weird, but glad to be back. And yeah, so basically, I'm going to talk about the month of December because we had a long break, so there's not much updates, and then some stuff coming up in the next couple weeks. But for Student Senate, we hosted a winter-themed week, the last week of school before break with various dress-up days, and then we had a hot cocoa cart for the winners of the holiday drive, which was the seniors. I believe we had the most weight with the products that we were doing. So then all seniors got hot cocoa at lunch, And then as well on that Friday, we were giving out candy canes just around the school to anyone who was like dressed up and stuff like that. As well, coming up on, I believe we're planning February 14th, we're doing a student senate and then like a unified club combined event for snowball game night and like a dance after the basketball game. And then our next thing is, so unified club, we had an event, I think it was December 18th or that Wednesday, and it was just a bingo in the LRC, and then we also watched a movie in the LRC and had a lot of fun doing that. For DECA, there's a district competition this Sunday at Bloomington Jefferson High School. I believe we're sending around 200 kids to the competition, and I think there's 900 total among our whole district competing. This is the only gateway into state, so it's very important for people to go. And then, yeah, and then state I believe is in March, so you'll have a couple months to prepare if you go to state. Math League, they have continued to stay on top of the leaderboard. I know I talked to Ms. Paul about it, and she's very proud of them, and I think they're undefeated from what I've heard, or close to the top, so yeah. National Honor Society members, we're just continuing to volunteer this year. They switched the format up a little bit from 15 hours for the whole year versus 7.5 each semester, so we gotta reach that or increment, and then by 7.5 at the end of the semester, so in a couple weeks, or else I guess you get put on probation or something along those lines. Rotary Club, they hosted a blanket making event in December that was very successful. I think the students got NHS or DECA hours, whatever they chose, and a lot of people showed up to that. FCA, they've continued to meet on Thursday mornings, I believe. And then Yearbook Club, they've been working hard as well. They ran a yearbook photo contest I heard about, so any student could submit stuff, and then winners, I think they get put in the yearbook with their picture that they submitted. And senior superlatives are also selected by senior voting, and we did the pictures for those. And then last of all, robotics, they kicked off building, I believe it's this week, they've started building stuff for this year's competition. I'm not really sure what the format is this year, but last year we went to World, so hopefully we can repeat that, which would be very cool. For athletics, so boys basketball, they have had a great start to their season. They're 8-1. I believe they lost to Stewartville last weekend, but yeah, we've been having a great season. We're at Orono tomorrow night, so that's always a fun game. Orono's going to be a good squad, but see how it goes. Girls basketball, they're 6-4, also off to a good start. Boys hockey, they're 7-6. Girls hockey is 10-7, and then wrestling has continued to do well individually. I think our team's doing pretty well as well, and they have the Rochester tournament the weekend after Christmas break started. Wrestling cheer has also been hard at work, just cheering them on. Gymnastics and Alpine continue to compete. I'm not really sure how they have done individually, but I know I think gymnastics does pretty good because they go to state most years. Nordic skiing was also training in Ironwood, Michigan this past weekend in search of snow, and then they compete tomorrow. I know that's probably been very difficult, especially with a lot of teams around the state not having snow. The dance team, they've also continued. They competed at Southwest Christian for their first meet, I believe, and they competed in the Eastview tournament after that. For arts, there's the winter one-act play, which is called Aunt Leaf, and then, so that's competition plays. I think we started it up last year, maybe a year before that, and it's competition. I think we've done pretty well. The art department also submitted students' artwork to the Scholastic Art Awards before break, and then regional judging occurs on Saturday, and results will be available in February. Work submitted are outstanding pieces created by MWHS students across a variety of media, including ceramics, sculpture, drawing, painting, and graphic design / illustration. Started in 1923, the Scholastic Art Awards is the nation's longest running and most prestigious scholarship and recognition program for young artists and writers in grades 7 through 12. And then the spring play is going to be Mamma Mia, I believe, and auditions will be held in February. And then on to academics, not much going on, I believe. ACT prep, well,
That's what we like to hear.
So I know
Might have
during
something to say about that.
I know during wind time there's been ACT prep courses for I think juniors studying for the ACT. They've done a different formatting this year as last year was kind of after school hours. There was ACT prep, now it's during school, and I believe that's good. And then the no cell phone policy is also going to be coming soon, I think at the start of semester 2, and we'll see how that goes. I think it should be good, but yeah, we'll see. I think it's a big step, but yeah. And then Westonka update, Isaac Hayes and Rachel Jensen were named this year's AAA award recipients. And yeah, basically I believe it's arts, academics, and athletics, so all 3 of those categories they've been in. And then Luke Sonnerborg and I think it was Edie Hollenstein received the XL award, so they're juniors. And yeah, I don't have anything else. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Are we gonna do the treasurer's report tonight?
We don't have a list of donations today, so we're gonna save that till next month for
Okay.
December. Although I did look at the check ledger and everything looks good, so.
Okay.
Has the check ledger ever not looked good? That's what I'm.
But I don't check every single
Okay.
check, but, you know, the ledger looks good. Checks I've looked at look good, so.
So you say we're trusting somebody on that?
The audits have been pretty good so far,
She's
so.
done a great job so far.
Are there any school board committee reports? None, then we'll move on to the financial report, Kathy.
Kathy, down below.
Right by the slider bar there in the bottom right.
Yeah.
Right here? There we go. I'm not an Apple person, so I always struggle with anything that's Apple versus a DOS machine. So, good evening and Happy New Year. Just a brief report.
What's DOS?
Yeah, I know, showing my age. Just a brief business services report tonight. Our enrollment as of January 1st is 2,414 students, and I'm pleased to share with you that we had 8 students over the holiday break. Just some new families moving in, and everybody else stayed in place. And so I believe that growth reflects the ongoing appeal of our district and the efforts of our entire school board and district team. So again, that's really welcome news. Okay, expenditures and revenue through December 31st, 2024. We have received $11,279,000 of our adopted budget, or 27.7%, and we've expended $16,780,000, or 43.1%. Both the revenue and the expenditures are trending appropriately compared to the prior years, so that's, we're pleased with that. And we're heavy into budget season. Not only are we revising the current year budget, which will be presented at next school board meeting, we're in the final draft stages of that. We're also at the same time working on our adopted budget for next year. We are in the initial planning stages. We're gathering information, we're reviewing assumptions, and that will be underway for the next school year, and that will be presented at our June 9th school board meeting. Both of these important items will be discussed at our upcoming Finance Committee meeting on February 6th. And in addition to that Finance Committee meeting, we'll also review the budget calendar and facility planning. You'll see an action item on your agenda tonight for the budget planning calendar as well. So that's all I have this evening. Any questions? Okay.
The enrollment's good news.
Yeah, it is.
That's really good news.
Yeah, when the holidays come along, people can, move in or out, you never know, with people's employment, and so it was nice to have it favorable in our,
What grade level was?
actually, it
all
was
over?
sprinkled.
Yeah,
it
it
was
was
sprinkled all over.
4,
Yep.
2, and 2 is what I said.
Yes, yeah, it was all over the building.
I was a little
each
close
building.
to see that. so.
Yeah, that's nice. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Teaching and learning report, Mike?
And I gotta set the record straight, there's a whole lot.
I knew you were gonna do that.
It's personal. Well, no, he's gonna set the record straight on robotics in the world's comment earlier too.
Yes, there's always some, yes.
We were thinking we'd have to do a job evaluation.
I don't know, maybe it's just the eye of a student.
Just the way you said it with such glee too, you know.
He certainly did, didn't he? So we're gonna get into it real fast here. Probably my own kids would say the exact same thing after the first day back, I'm not sure, but anyway. Tonight, good to see everyone again. We are almost halfway through the year, believe it or not. In a couple of weeks, at the end of semester 1, we'll start semester 2, and I thought tonight would be a good night that we would just take a moment and just talk about district tactics and district goals, give you some short, high-level updates. I know you're going to a goal planning session tomorrow, and a lot of great things that are going on. So first of all, of course, as you know, our strategic plan serves as our anchor. It's our driving force to everything that we do. But also, and of course, I really focus in on that goal number 1 around academics and achievement. But also realize that every year, when we put together goals for the district, and then that goes into our building tactics, that it's more than just, this is our anchor, but there's a number of different variables that come into play. So when we're setting goals, we're looking at student achievement data. So that can be from state testing, to our local FastBridge testing, ACT scores, AP results. Sometimes there's things that come up, for example, the READ Act. All of a sudden now we have this big focus on literacy, which is great. That influences our goals and our focuses. Other things that are happening that you'll hear a little bit about tonight. The state is at a roll, rolling out new academic standards. And there's a whole lot going on. They're playing catch up from the pandemic. And so what that leads to then, new standards are going to be implemented. That leads to what we now will be the MCA4 assessments. And so it's always about keeping ahead of the wave, being proactive, knowing what the next steps need to be to keep moving forward as a school system. So there's a lot of different variables, but I always start with what's our overall strategic plan? What's our direction? So to start things out tonight, student achievement. Yes, there's a lot that's going on in that area. And so we're always looking at our standardized test scores as a first place to look at, but I wanted to focus in particular tonight on FastBridge results. FastBridge results is our local standardized testing that we do in the fall and the spring. And we also do that in the winter at the elementary level. And we look at reading, we look at math, and what we do with those data points is really pinpoint gaps and strengths. And then what's happening in just a case study, we take that data and we can identify kids from Gates programming, enrichment, to kids that need Title I services, to our access intervention programming. And for example, at the middle school and high school, we have COTAC classes. So what's really important for kids that are struggling, that if we realize they are far behind benchmark expectations, then we have a place in reading for kids to go at the middle school, high school. With this big focus on literacy right now, a lot of times there's talk about, well, what happens when they get to the middle school? What happens at the high school? We have some very intentional work, and a lot of that work is through our supported language art classes at Grandview, and then our COTAC classes, which means there's a special education teacher and a gen ed teacher teaching together those students. And the goal would be for those kids to exit that level, get back into regular courses. So FastBridge is an important piece, important data piece that we use. And then that leads right into the multi-tiered systems of support. And this is a multi-year goal, a multi-year focus. This year, what's happened so far is that we had a district process guide, and now we've created a new version called the District MTSS Playbook. And that is, again, the rudder. It's what we go back to as a building, as a staff, if we're wondering, well, what should we be doing in a Tier 1 intervention? What does it mean to move from a Tier 1 to a Tier 2 intervention? We go to the playbook to really guide us with that work. The other thing that's happening is that we're expanding progress monitoring. So progress monitoring is for students that are struggling. And we do very intentional intervention work. And then progress monitoring means every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, we're actually assessing them with a very small targeted assessment to see if they're making progress. Now that data is only as good as you have the tools and the sophistication to use that data. So starting this week, we're actually implementing a new MTSS tool called EduClimber. And EduClimber serves as a data warehouse, but it not only brings in academic data, it's going to bring in attendance data, it's going to bring in behavior data. So when we have kids that are struggling in our school system, a lot of times you go right to the academics. But we know through MTSS, it's more than that. It's attendance, it's behavior, it can be socio-emotional variables that are playing into why the kid is struggling. EduClimber now is going to be a tool that we'll start using starting next year in a full implementation to track not only academic data points, but also behavior, attendance, social-emotional learning. So we're right in the middle. We're just starting this process to bring this tool into the district.
Mark?
Yeah.
The progress monitoring, that's at all grade levels?
All grade levels. Okay. Yeah, all grade. More intense at the elementary.
Okay.
It just because that's the building blocks with reading, but no, we do use it at all levels. And that'll continue to expand. EduClimber will be a tool that'll make it even easier to progress monitor and track the data. EduClimber and FastBridge are the same company. They work seamlessly together. So many districts, they use both tools.
Is that gonna be a database that everybody has access to, all staff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Are you required to, on the EduClimber or some of these other ones that you're integrating for next year, are you required to give that information to the state, or is that just simply an internal tool?
It's
for assessment?
internal. We have state reports that are very high level, but the actual student data, the day-to-day work with the data that students are producing, that is internal, that stays.
And that
internal.
EduClimber will be an extension of that tool that'll incorporate other factors other than strictly academics.
Correct. And it's internal. That'll be private internal data that only staff that are working with students would see. We always have to be very thoughtful about how we share data and how it's used, but that'll be an internal mechanism.
And do you feel this will be a quicker response then to if somebody is struggling?
Absolutely.
To get them to our programs that we can?
Yeah, because right now, if we have a kid that's struggling and we have what are called our student success teams. Okay, I'm struggling in reading. Well, to get my attendance data, I have to go over to this system over here. To get behavior data, I have to go over here. If I want to learn a little bit more about social-emotional health, I have to go over here. EduClimber will bring all those data points under one hood, so it can produce a report. So when I'm sitting in a meeting, really trying to figure out what's happening with the student, all those data points will be like on a one-page document versus going out to different places trying to pull it together. Yeah, it'll bring a lot of efficiency. And the tracking, if you think about going from elementary school, now we're going to shift into the middle school, and when they come into the 5th grade, EduClimber will have that nice report and background for those 5th grade teachers, versus we don't have that right now, the easy way to pull it together.
What are the mechanics then for when when we have this, and I know it's gonna be fully instituted next year, so
Yeah.
you might not
Yeah.
But you're tracking a student, and now you have this different income of data, right?
Yes.
You know, attendance,
Yes.
home activity, things like that.
Yes.
How is, okay, so the teacher or the instructor can then spot a trend that may not have been there or readily, you know, in sight.
Correct. Yes.
What is the mechanics then of what that teacher or that group of teachers would then do? What is available?
Right. So that starts to drive what kind of supports the students need. So you think about our MTSS framework, there's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 interventions. And then we can really target, is it a tier 2 intervention in academics? Is it something more in behavior that's the issue? Is it attendance? Is it social, emotional, mental health? What is it in that kid? And I believe we already talk about those areas, but when we can see all that data together, I think we're gonna make even faster, more efficient, more accurate decisions around what is it that students need support-wise to succeed.
So you can relegate to next steps and the intensity of the next steps
Yes.
based on the information?
Yes, that's the goal. That's the goal.
Well, I wasn't paying careful, teacher, so it starts at grade 1, I take it?
Actually, it starts in preschool.
Preschool. So the way it is now, I mean, the teachers were just, I mean, they must have had some information on
Oh,
this.
yeah, we have all the data.
Yeah, it's just not,
It's
it's not
not-
accessible in an easy way.
Right, it's just, you just have to be a lot of effort to pull it all together, and we do pull it together for students. But we're gonna be able to react and make decisions in a much more efficient, quicker, faster way, and really monitor how the kids are performing faster and quicker than we can today. This is the logical progression of implementing an MTSS framework. I would not have recommended we go to EduClimber 3 years ago at all.
Because you didn't have the basic data.
We were just trying to understand what tier 1, 2, and 3 interventions are. And understand what do we mean by intervention in behavior or in mental health. We were really good at academics, but we're just at the point where we're beginning to understand what it means for intervention in behavior, mental health with the academics. EduClimber will be a tool that'll help us.
And I would probably say that this gave us a structure that it became more formalized across our system, and that's what's really a strength. Before, we had a lot of staff doing fantastic things when it applied to these, but this has made it more coordinated, and with that coordination, it's brought on efficiency, but it always brings in more effectiveness too, because people aren't as much in silos, but it's working together with the information.
Well, and I think walking before you run with this was a great idea, because
Right.
it just, I think you're gonna see so many more success stories with this, because you're able to pull together the proper information to work individually with these people.
And, yeah, I would agree, and realize too, it takes time to get all your buildings, your whole system on the same page around MTSS work, and now is the time to implement a robust tool like this versus a few years ago. So more to come. So that's been.
So the academic data, is that just, that's in EduClimber, is that just standardized test scores, or is it grades as well?
It can be anything we want, and it'll include grades. It'll probably also include what we call classroom assessments in reading, those smaller assessments that we might give to young kids.
Okay.
On fluency and some other measurement. It could be basic facts. It could be, we can input anything into this system.
Cool.
Yeah.
And are you doing a history, loading a history too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's the work we're doing right now.
Okay.
And we have the right players, by the way, to help with that. We have Jared Chapman, our district's operations specialist. He's the guy under the hood that makes sure all our tech tools work well. You got Kyle Hugavine, who runs our whole student data management system. You got two ace players right there that'll be right in the middle of all this implementation. So. Okay, just a few more things. Just to update you again, we continue the work around our new programming at the high school, And this year has included site visits to different high schools and businesses, it's building partnerships. Really the big focus right now is identifying staff to teach these new programs, machining, CNA, EMR, EMT, in the construction. And also the work will begin now. We have to work with the Department of Ed that for these programs, teachers need to get a career tech education license. That's on top of their regular K-12 license. And then with the medical programs, we have to work with the Department of Health. And they'll have their checklist of requirements. And again, we just take it step by step, you know, with these things. Thursday, we have a visit from the Minnesota Emergency Medical Board, and that is the organization that authorizes, certifies EMRs and EMTs and paramedics. So they're going to be visiting with Jolene and I here on Thursday. And then we have a meeting with Jenny Nice, and she's at the Department of Ed, and she's our person to help us with career tech licensure and CNA program. So every week we're hitting a little step, next piece, put it together. It'll be here before you know it. The last thing I want to share with you tonight, I was telling Kevin today, this is the regular work. The regular work is around, you know, our curriculum and our programming in our classrooms. And as I was alluding to earlier today, the state now is rolling out new academic standards in the 4 core areas. They have finished science, and with science, the new MCA 4 science test is being administered this spring. So we'll have to remember when that comes through and the data comes through, that it's a completely different test than what we've had the last 10 years.
So you can't really compare.
Gotta be careful when we want to make comparisons. Then, to give you the quick highlights, English Language Arts Standards, they have to be implemented next year, 25-26, and then there'll be a new MCA 4 reading test in the spring of 2026. Social Studies, that now has been launched, and that has to be embedded by the 26-27 school year. So already we're having conversations with our staff that teach social studies, and then I'm making the rounds of having meetings now with staff that teach math. Math literally was just launched by the state right before winter break, early December, and those are academic standards that need to be embedded into our curriculum by the 27-28 school year. Seems far, far down the road, but it really isn't. And then an MCA 4 math test will be launched in the spring of 2020.
Is the new MCA 4 reading test that begins spring of 26, is that tied in with the state expectation that all students are reading at grade level? Is that how
it's all tied together.
It's all tied together?
Yeah, it is.
So have you had, I mean, this is probably a dumb question, but have you been able to look at all this stuff?
Oh, yeah.
So when you look at it,
Yeah.
how different is it?
It's different.
So it's gonna be.
And it's different in a good way. The way that I would summarize it, these standards are what I would use the term inquiry-based. So think of.
What based?
Inquiry, question-based. So they are expecting higher level thinking of our students. Not just memorizing facts like in social studies, but it'll be more, take the Declaration of Independence and what was done to create that document. How does it, yes, here are the dates when it was done and who wrote it, but how does it impact our society today? It's gonna force kids to think deeper. And that's happening in science, it's happening in all the standards, and you will see that come through. So there's gonna be some shifts in instruction and shifts in expectations, and you take that one step at a time. All good, all great things, all good things. What a perfect time to be doing remodeling at the high school, to develop new classroom environments for students as these things come online. So this is the work, and I would say it's rigorous, it's the right step. There's a reason why we educate well in Minnesota, and this is another reason as they step up these standards. So.
Can you give an example of, like, for instance, the English is gonna start in the fall, like, so what what kind of additions to the curriculum, just say at the high school level, what would that look like when we're talking about less than a year?
Yeah, so the work, the work that we're doing in English language arts, there's a couple things. Those standards and all the standards now have a required Native American literature piece to them.
Okay. So very specific.
Very specific.
Additions.
Yes, yes. English language arts, 4 types of writing are required. It used to be, well, this year we'll do informative writing, next year it's persuasive. Now, all 4 types of writing are required every year.
Okay.
That's a shift with that. And the last one example I give you with science, it's phenomena-based. So again, at first think, well, what does that mean? What that means is that if you take a classroom and you, in March, you go down to Dutch Lake by Grandview, and all the steam is coming off the lake. Instead of telling the student, why is there steam, or why is there fog? We had fog over winter break. Inquiry-based, phenomena-based would be, you first, students, figure out and think about why that's happening based on your knowledge base. Then the teacher comes around and will give more information, might be experiments to do, and then at the end, they get the full explanation. So it's all centered around a lot more higher level thinking. So I shared this with you tonight only because this is new, and the state has really formalized this work and timelines since August, and this is, everything else that we do, this is also very important work to do, so.
I take it we'll probably get further updates at the teaching and
Yes,
learning on this?
of course. Yes. So anyway, that's my report tonight. Just again, really great things that are happening. Also, as we shift into the second half of the year, we get set for ACT testing. That'll be coming up here shortly in March. And then state testing will be around the corner again this spring.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Glad to hear some things happening in the
In academics?
We were worried there for a while.
So just a little bit of an update, and then I'll get into some of your action items today. First of all, this Thursday and then next week, we have our kindergarten roundups, our information nights at our primaries. And so excited, if you remember, we ran a prospective family night in November, had a really good response to that. Been working on our communication out to the community to make sure they know our options, and pleased with efforts there. But excited to start meeting some of the families that are families with kids currently in our system, and some new families that are coming into our system here over the next week, and appreciate the staff's effort of putting that together. Excited about the facility planning that's currently going on, and so we are making plans for starting construction at the high school, which will be first. One date that'll soon be on your announcements is the groundbreaking, and so that'll be April 3rd, but already over spring break, we will start barricading parts of the northwest side of the high school, as that's where construction's gonna begin. You tell me when we're gonna have good weather, and I'll tell you that start date, but we're hoping that's earlier April than later April, that we can get going. But over spring break, we'll start blocking off certain areas and getting that organized, so we can do that in a organized fashion with our students and families, and communication will be going out about that process. Also, Grandview is, we're busy with planning out their construction. That'll be done over the summer. Again, the high school starts in April, and it'll go through the 25-26 school year, opening up the end of August. And so a lot to look forward to. We're also in the process of our design work currently with the stadium and Shirley Hills and Hilltops maintenance and improvements. And so A lot of work, a lot of exciting work. Really grateful for our community's support of these questions and the board's support of this going forward. You see Mark's report and you can see how the bond allows programming to go to our students. And as he talked about some specifics, it's in every single department. Every single department at our high school is going to really benefit by this remodeling project, and just excited about giving you updates as this is going on. Another just reminder on this is it's going to open in phases, and so it's not going to be that you walk in and now you see the whole thing at once. We are going to open in multiple different phases, and so over the summer we will complete one phase of it, and then in the next semester we'll open up another phase, and then the rest of it will open up in August. And so it's really, you can think about it in three kind of chunks, that more and more. One thing I feel good about that is our students that are seniors next year, they are going to experience some of the new high school. It's not just going to be a school under construction for them. They are going to see parts of it. Obviously not the final project, but they'll be able to experience parts of it being completed. And so excited for that work. And then over the summer of 26 is when the stadium and the primaries will be worked on. And so that is going on. Kathy mentioned that at your next board meeting, we'll have that you approve a revised budget and a budget goal. I think Kathy and team and our finance committee and our staff as a whole has been really attentive to the finances of the district. You look over the past 15 years and you're going to see a very accurate reporting, not just from an auditing standpoint, but just how what we said will happen, what has happened, and we've built up some securities that we really appreciate and enjoy. But you can't rest on that, and we know that every year is a challenge to make sure that we use every dollar as wisely as we can. And so we will be going through that process again this winter of really evaluating our budgets and where can we be tighter. And that's something that we welcome input from anybody to recommend things that we should be looking at. But over a series of years, we have our methods that really try to dig into that we can make sure that these dollars are being used as wisely as they can for what our strategic direction is for our district. And so we have that work coming up. With staffing, you quickly start getting into, and you say it's January, but January is really the beginning also of trying to think ahead of where you're going to be. And of course, you don't know all of your retirements or what opens up. You also know what your trends are and how can you put yourself in a good position that you can really attract and retain. And so you start making sure that you can retain, and I appreciate the board's work with our contracts. We will have the teacher contract this summer, and so we really try to build up our strategies to make sure that we have competitive contracts that also fit within our budget. And you do that by listening and observing and really working hard to do well on all sides of it. Then it's also just with the relationships that you have in your buildings, that this is a place where people really enjoy to work and they feel that they have voice and that they have direction in their building. And I just give a lot of credit to our principals and how they work with their teams, and then just staff supporting other staff, creating an environment that really attracts and retains. But the best way to hire is to retain high quality, and that's where your focus really needs to be. But also we know that we have to market ourselves for some new positions and also some retirements, et cetera. And so we're really going through the efforts of making sure that we're prepared for that. Tomorrow we have our strategic retreat where we're going to be looking at our goal setting process. When you look at our vision statement, mission statement, and our values, I think they really have stood the test of time. We'll talk about those, but I feel good about it. But when you look at our strategic priorities, what Mark showed up there, those 4 items, they're starting to look tired, and that's what it should look like. After a period of years, you should show progress where though you need to challenge yourself and you have to set that new bench. If those look still very challenging, that's not a compliment. That's something that we should make those look tired over time and the look that they've been achieved. And so I'm really excited about working with the board of setting our next challenges of how we can move our district forward and also represent the students in our community really well in our work. And so our work tomorrow begins that process of how we can pull that together. And I'm appreciative of the board's time. Until you serve on the board and when you're going through and congratulating people that they took different positions, I'm like, thank you for being nominated. To anyone that wanted an officer position, but just being on the board. There's a lot of time that people will not understand until they're on a slight position of what you put into representing our community. I just want to say thank you, and back-to-back meetings, and for some of you it's back-to-back-to-back meetings that you have over the next days. Thank you for that. With your action items, you have just a few that I'm going to comment on. One is grade 6 open enrollment. We are going to cap that like we capped it this year. And one thing that I would just say, and I appreciate the board's support of this, is we feel setting a number is the responsible thing to do, that we have space with staffing that works well up to a certain point, and then it starts being counterproductive, where class sizes go higher than what we would like to see them go. And so we set this at a level where we feel like we can still achieve what people expect of us. And so whether you hit that number or whether you don't hit that number, we'll monitor that. If we fall below it, then you can keep on taking an open enrollment. But if all of a sudden we hit it, it's those families that, that are open enrolling in, we will be capped off.
So if we hit that level now, or?
Yes, we have.
And the level we're looking at is 210.
Yep.
That's what I'm
And this is
thinking.
the only class this.
Yeah. You know, there's a part of it that I would like to report to you that every class is that we're doing this action. And so and why I would say that is that would show that you budget planning, you have it where you know that you're gonna be filling that in. But right now, this is with this grade is where that's at, and that's why we bring it to you.
So this is capping what's the class of 2032? 2031?
Mhm.
Yeah. When you said we capped it last year, we capped 5th grade last year.
That's correct.
It's following the class up.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
Last year we capped 5th, 7th, and transition plus. And so 7th going to 8th has lifted the middle school to the high school, and part of that is just due to electives and other opportunities that kids can have. It gets dispersed differently. And so we don't see that same count.
Do we track turnaways, or is that just data we can't provide because we don't know once we cap who's gonna try to get in?
It's a yes to both of those, to be honest. We do see who asks to be on a wait list, but obviously when word is out that you're full and you don't interact with those people, you really don't know what that number is. And then for action items C and D, we're bringing this to you just for a communication and transparency component of saying that how we're meeting our calendar at the middle school and the high school, we're going to do that differently this year. What we're proposing is the last 2 days. Currently at Grandview, we are going to, normally at Grandview, they have their end of the year celebration, then they go to Valley Fair. Those same things are happening. It's just that they're not going to be going to Grandview for those sites, and the end of the year celebration, instead of being a full day event, it's going to be a half day event. They're going to be meeting at the activity center, and then the Valley Fair pickup drop-off is here at the high school. What that allows us to do is gain 2 days of our construction for a successful project at Grandview Middle School, and we feel like that puts our students, the project, our return in a stronger spot where the impact to student learning there is not impacted.
Assume it says picnic, so that will include lunch for those middle
Yes,
school kids?
yes.
Okay.
Then for the high school, we have 2 half-days, those final 2 days. With those, we're gonna be doing those, one, if you are a student that prefers to be at school, if you do not have internet access, or if you have special education needs, you can come in person. But we're also offering that you can do this from home online, and that allows us, again, more capacity to do the same thing that we're doing at Grandview. As we will have students in our building, it allows us to take some of the steps that we need in these areas to move this along.
And taking finals digitally is not an issue?
We would,
I'm older
obviously,
school than
we,
Kathy is, so.
obviously during COVID, we got examples of how to work through this. I'm gonna tell you that always in person for education is what we will promote. I think in this case, with this time period, with what's happening on those days, knowing what we gain by the amount of work that's at the high school, this is a smart recommendation. And so we wanted not to announce something like this. We wanted to make sure we brought this to the school board. We will be communicating to parents multiple times over the next weeks, months. But we do feel the project, both projects are complicated projects, and you want to start by gaining as many potential days as you can, and we feel like this puts us in a strong position so we can get those turnarounds. When we know when good weather hits for the high school, that's going to give us a lot better idea of how timelines are working. And so we will start getting updates from Kraus Anderson to the board about how the project is moving along, and you'll be able to monitor that, but that'll be kind of a standing item. I don't know that we'll do it every meeting, but we'll definitely want to have regular updates so you can hear, the community can hear those updates. Obviously, we'll be communicating those out as well. Lastly, I would say, as Mark mentioned, we're a semester almost in. It's a really incredible time to be at Westonka. There's a great spirit. There's a lot of momentum. There's obviously people had a nice break that they're coming off of, but it's so nice when you come off a nice break to come back to work where you love to work. And I know that sentiment is shared by many, and I'm just appreciative of the board's leadership in helping foster that environment. So thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Chair moves for approval of the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Move on to action item 8A, approval of the 25-26 budget planning calendar. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 8B, resolution to close grade 6 to open enrollment for the 25-26 school year. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 8C, approval of schedule change for Grandview Middle School on June 2nd, 2025. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 8D, approval to designate June 2nd, 2025 and June 3rd, 2025 as digital learning days at Mount Westonka High School. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. If there is no further business to come before the board, the chair moves for adjournment. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carries. We're adjourned. We'll see everybody tomorrow, 2 o'clock.